Same-sex marriage supporters in our state are celebrating President Obama's support of gay marriage. KOMO's Hannah Scott has more.
Josh Freitas with Equal Rights Washington says it's an historical moment, comparing Obama's move to landmark decisions like Roe v. Wade and Brown v. Board of Education.
And what was so powerful about what President Obama said today was he talked about his personal journey, and he talked about how the stories and the conversations he had with friends and family and his staff changed his opinion.
And while Freitas expects Obama's comments to push Washington voters to support same-sex marriage, opponents like Joseph Backholm with the Family Policy Institute say the opposite is true.
I think this will help mobilize people.
Backholm says Obama's comments are an effort to fundraise in an election year. Hannah Scott, KOMO News Radio.
State Senator Ed Murray, who spearheaded our state's landmark bill legalizing same-sex marriage, says this is an exciting and historic day in America.
Murray believes President Obama's decision to publicly support same-sex marriage was based on personal conviction and not politics. However, he believes it will have political benefit in November.
Young people support this in huge numbers, and it is has potential to drive up a much larger youth vote that will end up voting for the president.
Murray, who is gay, says the president's public statement won't become a divisive campaign issue this fall because those who do not support same-sex marriage were not likely going to vote for Obama in the first place. Larry Rice, KOMO News Radio.
And meantime, here in the state, they've gathered more than half the signatures needed for a referendum against gay marriage.
The group Preserve Marriage Washington has until June 6th if they want to stop our state's new law allowing gay marriage. It goes into effect June 7th. If they get the 120,577 signatures needed, it'll put the law on hold until a vote in November. The law allowing gay marriage in our state was signed by Governor Gregoire in February. Preserve Marriage Washington believes marriage can only be the union of one man and one woman. Art Sanders, KOMO News Radio.
There's a tendency when I wade into things, suddenly it becomes political and it becomes polarized.
Well, it was on NBC's Meet the Press this weekend that Vice President Joe Biden said,
men marrying men, women marrying women, and heterosexual men and women marrying men all are entitled to the same exact rights.
And that's made some wonder if the vice president's public support of same-sex marriage somehow pressured the president into taking his official stand on the issue today.
Well, early morning campaigning is a labor of love and a labor about love for supporters of marriage equality.
KOMO's Corwin Hake is on Capitol Hill right now to tell us that Election Day is off to a very early start there.
Well, it is, Greg. Volunteers showed up at Approve R74 campaign headquarters before 4 this morning.
Did you get any sleep at all last night?
Just a bit, but this is what it's about. It's about love, commitment. It's about families.
Adrian Matanza, well, he's not too concerned with the whole redefining marriage argument. When all is said and done, he supports love.
It's just always about love. That's what this bill's about. That's what it has been through the legislature. So the freedom to marry for all couples.
Volunteers are targeting many who would support R74 here on Capitol Hill, but who might not have gotten around to voting for it. So they're hitting the streets this morning, first to drop off a reminder to vote on doorsteps, and later to ring as many doorbells as they can. Live on Capitol Hill, Corwin Hake, KOMO News Radio.
Opponents of R74 held Reject R74 signs on the 45th Street overpass between Wallingford and the U District on I-5 yesterday. Scott Flagg is with Preserve Marriage Washington.
Disappointed, obviously. Just try to raise my family in the best way that I can, and support trying to restore family wherever we can if we can get consensus to do that in the future, I guess.
The group says it does not plan to hold any demonstrations today.
Supporters of marriage equality are cheering the re-election of the president as well. KOMO's Corwin Hake live at the Yes on 74 get-together.
And Tom and Jane, this crowded ballroom at the West went berserk when various networks began calling the race for Obama. As you know, the president was late to champion same-sex marriage, but he did come out in support of the issue earlier this year. Same-sex marriage, of course, tends to be a more liberal issue. So this event where I'm at tonight is kind of a mini party for the Democrats. And this crowd is also cheering the election of Wisconsin's Tammy Baldwin to the U.S. Senate. She becomes the first openly gay or lesbian member of the U.S. Senate. The news is not so good for the event here. The Yes on R74 campaign earlier returns show that Yes on 74 is trailing. And my colleague Charlie Harder is with the No on 74 camp, and he joins us live. Charlie?
King County results have just started to trickle in, and what we're understanding is that the approval of R74 has actually taken the lead so far in early results. Now, what does that mean? Well, the people here at the anti-R74 Preserve Marriage Washington say they wanted to get at least 40% of the vote in King County in order to say this might be a close election. Reporting live from Linwood, Charlie Harder, KOMO Newsradio.
Here's one group that's feeling pretty good this morning. Supporters of same-sex marriage. Their campaign appears headed for victory.
And KOMO's Corwin Hake is live this morning on Capitol Hill.
And they partied long into the night up here on the Hill, Greg and Manda. But earlier, a packed house at the downtown Westin cheered results that showed yes on R74, taking early 52 to 48% lead. Supporters say the campaign did a good job of reaching out to non-gay voters.
You know, I think once you get to know people who are in loving, committed relationships, they've been together for decades, they have kids, they're your neighbors, they're your coworkers, they pay taxes, and no one should tell them that they can't be married. I think that's really the big difference.
Zach Silk is with Washington United for Marriage. Now, if yes on 74 goes on to win, same-sex couples could apply for marriage licenses as early as December 6th. Reporting live, Corwin Hake, KOMO Newsradio.
Meanwhile, the No on 74 campaign is not conceding anything this morning.
Not all of the votes have been counted yet.
Chip White is with Preserve Marriage Washington. He says if R74 passes, the law will change, but the truth will not.
And the truth is that marriage is the union of one man and one woman.
He says civil unions already extend full legal rights to gay couples.
King County has some tips for same-sex couples planning to apply for marriage licenses once they become legal next week. KOMO's Hannah Scott says the recorder's officer will start issuing them at 12:01 a.m. December 6th, but that doesn't mean that you'll get one.
The county expecting a huge response to the midnight event. The county's Cameron Satterfield says folks can start lining up at 10 p.m.
At the end of the day, we will close the line to any newcomers, so that'll be at 4:30 p.m. on Thursday. Anyone that's inside that official queuing area at 4:30, we will get to.
But if you're not in line by 4:30, you're going to have to come back the next day or even the day after that. They're also reaching out through social media with 3 different Facebook events. You can get in on that action at facebook.com/King County WA. Hannah Scott, KOMO News Radio.
You can see now that the enemies of marriage equality are the enemies of joy and the enemies of love, really.
As columnist and gay rights activist Dan Savage, he was part of the first group to get same-sex marriage licenses in King County right after midnight. And KOMO's Hannah Scott was there for the historic event.
A local choir's Single Red Roses, just part of the celebration outside as hundreds of couples lined up and waited for hours to get their license. Sarah and her fiancé Terry among the first to get theirs.
I didn't think being legally married was something I was ever going to participate in.
And while Terry says Sarah usually does most of the crying, she admits it's an emotional victory.
The people who did make it and waited so long, but then there's the ones who didn't.
Couples were met with cheers and applause as they left the building, many planning to tie the knot right away. The first weddings won't happen until Sunday, though, because of a state law requiring a 3-day waiting period for all couples. Hannah Scott, KOMO News Radio.
King County officially issued 279 of these marriage licenses between midnight and 6 a.m. They're still open. There's no waiting line right now. Pierce County will open its doors at 6:30 for this, followed by Kitsap County at 8, Snohomish County at 9 a.m. In other states, well, Washington's now one of 9 to officially recognize same-sex marriage.
Corey Hale and Keith Bacon met 6 years ago.
We celebrate December 8th as the beginning of our love.
And today, a day after their 6th anniversary, they'll be getting married at Seattle City Hall. Corey says he and Kevin recognize the significance of being one of the first same-sex couples to marry in our state.
To be part of this monumental moment in Washington and really, American history, it's an honor.
Kevin says all he and Corey wanted to be is treated like any other married couple.
Equality, that's what it's all about. We just want to be treated fairly and equally like everyone else.
There are 140 couples to be married today at Seattle City Hall.
The first same-sex couple was married at 12:01 this morning, and since then, hundreds more have tied the knot. KOMO 4's Mark Miller reports Keith and Corey were among the 140 couples married today at Seattle City Hall.
I, Keith, take you, Corey Anton.
The words we all recognize as the words of commitment.
I, Corey Anton, take you, Keith.
Spoken today between 2 men.
To be my husband, my partner in life, and my one true love.
A union now recognized as a legally binding marriage.
I now pronounce you
husband and husband.
About 200 supporters stood outside to greet the newlyweds, handing out flowers, throwing rice, talking about civil rights.
Ceremonies took place this afternoon. Now, several of today's weddings took place at Seattle's First Baptist Church. KOMO 4's Luke Ducey reports 25 couples gathered for a group wedding.
25 same-sex couples gathered to exchange vows in a group wedding this afternoon. Church members say they have been waiting a long time for this.
As marriage has approached and this day has approached, it really is momentous, and it's just an overwhelming feeling of joy.
Seattle Men's Chorus will mark this historic day with a double wedding tonight. Couples from both the Men's Chorus and Women's Chorus will say "I do" just before intermission at Benaroya Hall. Then hundreds of people will join them on stage to sing One Hand, One Heart from West Side Story. Florists, bakeries, and photographers across the state seeing a spike in business thanks to the first same-sex wedding ceremonies. Megan Shields owns Cakes by Design in Vancouver, and she's hustling to meet demand for cakes for ceremonies after doing a little creative marketing at last Thursday's marriage licensing events at the county records office.
Handed out 20% off wedding cakes to all of them. We had immediately after we left in line 3 different couples call. One of them booked right there for Monday. Another of them was already booked.
Already planning to hire a couple new employees for an expected busy upcoming summer wedding season.
From Spokane to Seattle. Wedding day applause for gay couples who said "I do" in what's been an historic weekend around the state.
KOMO's John Repp looks at the impact of Washington's new law.
Sunday was the first day that gay couples could legally marry in Washington state.
I didn't think I would live to see this.
Mike Malone and his now spouse, Drew Edwards, celebrated with about 2,000 others at Seattle's Paramount Theater. He says from the vote in November to the weekend ceremony,
I can't even process the historic nature of today yet. That'll sink in this week, I guess.
On hand last night, Seattle's mayor, who says the rest of the nation is watching what is happening in Washington state. Malone also believes this weekend will be an annual event for the rights of same-sex couples with mass wedding anniversaries this time next year. John Repp, KOMO News Radio.
Cheryl Chow, well-respected Asian American, former Seattle City Councilwoman and former member of the Seattle School Board. She's also dying of brain cancer and this week revealed publicly she's gay. KOMO's Hannah Scott got a chance to sit down with Chow to talk to her about her health and the decision to come out.
Cheryl and her partner of 10 years, Sarah, welcomed me into their cozy Seward Park home. Cheryl, in a very weakened state, struggled to get to the sofa, but with Sarah's help, she was able to sit down next to me and explain why she had to reveal her sexuality before she died.
If I could save one kid from feeling bad about themselves, maybe me coming out will do it. 60 years I've been hiding this.
The reason she kept that secret?
Because of our culture, the Chinese culture. Because of my political standing in the community. Because of my mom.
Cheryl worried about her mom's reaction, especially because in their culture it wasn't even common to tell family you love them.
My mom said, Cheryl, that's the way she talks. And I went back in her room and she said, I love you. And that meant everything to me.
But that happened as Mom was passing away, and Cheryl never had the opportunity to tell her mom who she really was, something she now regrets. Now that she has revealed her true self to the world, what was that like for you coming out?
I was relieved.
Relieved?
Relieved. It's no fun keeping a secret.
As for Chow's health,
I'm feeling better. Because of option, they thought I was going to die within a year or so.
But a second opinion has offered Cheryl treatment and a ray of hope for her, her partner, and the couple's 4-year-old daughter. Hannah Scott, KOMO News Radio.